Mem Aleph Amud Beis, the Mishnah at the beginning of the new parak. Zok the Mishnah, someone who was taken out of his tchum by nochrim, forcibly he was taken out of his tchum, or by a ruach ra, by literally an evil spirit, and he became deranged. So a person has his tchum, he has alpayim amma from his place of residence, but if he goes outside of his tchum, so now he's restricted, he's outside of the permitted walking area. So now if he goes out, and even if he went out against his will, ein lo dalet amas, he has only his dalet amas. The dalet amas is mekayim shalom, that's a place, a person's place. Even though he was taken out and it was against his will, he still has no more than dalet amas. Hechziru, but if they returned him to his place, they returned him to within his tchum, kilu lo yotza, it's like he never left. And therefore, he has his original tchum, it's like he never left. And he has the same area to walk, the permitted area, that he had before. If they took him to another city, and they placed him in a deer, in a pen, or in a sire, a corral, so this area is beyond his tchum. But he is now in an enclosed area. Mahalach, so if he put a deer aside, or they say Mahalach is kula, he can walk the entire area. He's not restricted into just dalet amas. If he sits in a closed area, therefore the whole enclosed area, the whole enclosure is considered like one area of dalet amas, and therefore he can walk through the whole area. So, according to Rashi, this heter to walk within the entire area over here is only if it's a walled city, if it's a walled enclosure, if it's a walled area. Normally a person has his area of his, when he's kind of shvisa in a city, he has the whole area of his city. The whole city is considered dalet amas, and he has alpayim amma in each direction beyond the city, even if it's not a walled area. But over here, when we're saying that he was taken beyond his tchum, but he was put into an enclosure, to say that the entire city is considered to be as dalet amas, and then he can walk that entire area, that's only according to Rashi if it's walled. Other Rishonim argue on that, and they say no, even if it's not a walled area. But Rabbi Yeshuv, Rabbi Kiva, they say ein lel dalet amas. They say no, he only has dalet amas. He can't walk more than dalet amas. Masechet Eruvin, Plunderson. There was a Masechet. It happened one time that these Tanoim were coming from a city called Plunderson, and they were in the ship. The ship was in the port when Shabbos came, so therefore the Malkum Shvisa was considered in the port in the city. But then the ship started to move out, and on Shabbos it moved out, and it was 2,000 or more, 2,000 amos away or more from the city, from the port. So now that's similar to the case that we just discussed, where they were away from their tchum, they were outside their tchum, but they were in an enclosure, they were in a ship. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azar halchos kulam, they followed their shita, and therefore they treated the whole ship like dalet amas, and they were able to move around and walk through the whole area of the ship. But Rabbi Yeshuv, Rabbi Kiva, but they did not move more than dalet amas, because according to their shita, you don't have, the whole enclosure is not considered like dalet amas, so you only have dalet amas. They want it to be machmer. So we'll have to see in the Gemara, why does it say sherosu lahachmer? Why is it a churma? But according to their sheet, you should see meikir adin that we do not treat the whole enclosure as dalet amas, so they only have dalet amas. So the Gemara will discuss this. Another time that they were traveling, and they were traveling on a ship, and they came into the area, within the area of the city, but they didn't reach port until after Shabbos began, until it was dark and Shabbos began. So the question was that on the onset of Shabbos, were they in the tchum of the city, and therefore they have the whole area of the city, they're within their tchum, and they can walk through the whole area, or not? So Amr Loy Rabbi Gamliel, they says Rabbi Gamliel, Ma Anru Leired, can we get off the ship And were we in 2,000 amos of the port, and therefore is in the tchum, or are we restricted to the ship, either the ship itself or even dalet amos in the ship, but we're restricted to that area within the ship? So he said, Mutar matem, you can disembark. Shekvar hayisim istakel. I was examining the area and examining the distance to the shore. And we were within the tchum of the city before dark, before the onset of Shabbos. So therefore, we were within the tchum of the city. We can walk through the whole city. So the Mishnah started off saying, he was taken forcibly out of his city, out of his Malkum Shvisa by Nocham or Ruach Ra, an evil spirit. Gimel Devorim Aviernes Adam al Adaitav al Das Kaina. There's three things that cause a person to violate his own wishes and Das Kaina, the will of the Rebbeinu Shalom, meaning they cause him to do things against his will. Elohein who pressure Yidden, who impose things on them. Veruach Ra, an evil spirit that causes a person to be deranged. He does things that when he had a clear head he wouldn't do. The Dikduke Aneos and the Dikduke Aneos, the abject poverty. Abject poverty where the person is so poor that he has no choice to do things that he otherwise wouldn't do. What is this negeya? That a person should daven for these things, that he should be spared from this, that he shouldn't have these afflictions, or according to some Meforshim, then other people should daven for him. Gimel ein roim pnei Gehenna. Three people have such yisurim that they don't see Gehenna. That the yisurim, the suffering that they have in Olam Haza, atones for them, is mechaper for them, and they don't see Gehenna. Elohein, what are these? These are the three: dikduke aniyos, abject poverty, v'choyle me'ayim, and intestinal disorders, which are very painful, varashus, and also the rishus, the creditors who pursue the person, the creditors who try to extract money from him, or alternatively, the government, the decrees of the government, that they impose hardships on the person, and they cause him great pain. And some say another one of the cases is Isha. He has a bad wife. He has a bad wife that makes his wife miserable. Another one who has a bad wife who doesn't conduct herself properly, it's his fault. He should divorce her. The other one says no, he does include that case because sometimes if you divorce her, you have to pay her ksuva, and she might have an exorbitant ksuva that he can't afford, so he is therefore stuck in that situation. Or he has children and she has to raise the children. What's the that a person does, Rahman Sani, has these kind of Yisurim, but nevertheless he should be Mekal Mahava, because he should know that ultimately he will get rewarded from that, he'll be saved from the Pnei Gehenna. Shloisha Mesim Kashem Mesaprim. Three people die when they're middle of talking, meaning that they die suddenly, without warning. He has stomach disorders, v'chaya, or some woman is birthing, she's giving birth, hadroikin. So hadroikin is, Rashi says, a disease in the mouth, which also affects the stomach. So these types of diseases a person can die from them very suddenly. My nafkamina, what's a nafkamina? What's the point of teaching us this? Limishush b'ham b'huz vadasa. To a person, he should prepare the tachrichim for the misa, because it might happen suddenly, meaning a person who has these types of ailments, that he should know and be prepared that Rahman al-Islam, that misa might come suddenly. He should prepare all the preparations that he has to do with tshuva, tzavos, etc. So back to the halacha of the Mishnah, Amar Rav Nachman or Shmuel, Yatzel Adas, if a person left willingly. In our case, in the Mishnah, the person was taken out forcibly. But let's say a person left his tchum willingly, Yatzel Adas, Ein Lo El Arba Amas. He only has 4 amas. Then he was taken out forcibly. He took it away against his will. It has only dalet amas. Yatzel Adas. If he went out willingly, Ein Lo El Arba Amas. Well, of course, Hashda Misha Yisiu Nochrim, if he was taken out by Nochrim, he was taken out forcibly in Loyal Dalit Amos, and then still he only has Dalit Amos. Yatzaladas me boy, well, if he went out willingly and he did an Avera and he went out willing, of course he's not going to get more than Dalit Amos. Elaima and Chanami. That's a double pashat. That's another pashat. If he was taken out forcibly, he did nothing wrong, he still only gets Dalit Amos. He's not going to have more than Amos. He went willingly. In a case where he was taken out forcibly, so he was taken out against his will. But then he came back, he came back knowingly, willingly, he came back. So he did an Issa. Now the Mishnah says that he came back, was taken, and he was brought back against his will. But over here, in that case rather, in the Mishnah, then he's ki'ilu lo yotza. But over here, he came back willingly, so he did an Aveira, einu ela dalet amos. Frank the Gemara, well, what are you telling me that? Hanami tanina, we learned this in the Mishnah, we know this. Because the Mishnah says, Hechziru Nachrim ki'ilu lo yotza. The Mishnah says, if the Nachrim brought him back, so he was taken out forcibly, he was brought back forcibly, ki'ilu lo yotza. Then it says, if he never left. Hechziru ki'ilu lo yotza, that's only if they brought him back, it's like he never left. Ha, aval haitziu Nachrim v'chazor ledas, but if he came back, willingly came back and did an Avera, he doesn't have the whole city, he doesn't have the Alpai, he only has Dalit Amos. So, so what is he teaching us? So what is Rav Nachman teaching us? He went out willingly. But he got brought back against his will. So now Lamaisa, he's in this place that he is now, in his original place, but he came back against his will. He only has Dalit Amos. Now over here, you might think that, well, he was brought back against his will. So you might think, well, he's here now, he didn't do an Avera, so now that he's brought back forcibly, you might think he has the whole Tchum. No, he's telling you, Rav Nachman, that he only has Dalit Amos. Strike the Gemara, why does he have to tell me that? Hanami Tanina, the Mishnah also says, Hoitziu v'achziru, it says, Davke, if Hoitziu, they took him out and they brought him back, Ki'ilu lo yotza. Where is it Ki'ilu like Ki'ilu lo yotza, that he never left and he has his whole Tchum? That's if he was both taken out and brought back against his will. But that implies clearly that if he went out willingly, if we don't have both sides of it that were forcibly, then he only has Dalit Amos. Gemara says no. Ma'od Sema, I might have interpreted it differently. Ma'od Sema I might have thought that the Mishnah is telling us two separate halachas, meaning that it's not a one case. It's Nochrim. He was taken out forcibly. The Chazar Ladas, and he came back willingly. Ein Le'ela Dalit Amos. Then he has only Dalit Amos. Aval Yotzel Ladas, but if he went out willingly, V'chziru Nochrim. But if he went out, so it's not a Hechziru Nochrim, I might have learned it is not a continuation of the previous case. When it says Hechziru Nochrim is Ki'ilu lo yotza, I might have thought that it's a separate case. It's Aval Yotzel Ladas, even if he went out willingly. But Hechziru Nochrim, but Nochrim brought him back. So the Maisa, that his return, the where he is now, is against his das, Ki'ilu lo yotza, Kamash Malan, it's telling you, no, don't learn it that way. The Mishnah that says that it's Ki'ilu lo yotza, Dafke, if both his going out and the return were against his will, then it's Ki'ilu lo yotza. But if in any direction, of either direction, it was willingly, he only has Dalit Amos. Let's say a person had to relieve himself. He has to go to the bathroom. So, what is it then over there? Can he go beyond the 4 amos? Omer lehem, gorol kavod abriyas, shedeichas leisasa shebeter. It's kavod abriyas, and it's deicha leisasa shebeter. What is leisasa? As the Gemara explains, the leisasa shebeter, the Gemara explains, is leisasa of leisasa, a durabanan. So Tchumim is durabanan. So therefore, we say that he can go beyond the Tchum, because it's kavod abriyas, he can go beyond the Tchum. And Amrin Ardoi Bikeach, well, if he's a Bikeach, then Ayal Tchuma, if he goes to looking and go to a private area to relieve himself, he should go in the direction of his tchum, which will allow him to go back into his tchum. They came into all. Now, once he's in his tchum and he came in beheter because he's allowed to come in for this purpose, then he's back in his tchum and he's not restricted anymore. So the Shem speak out is that he can only do that, and we say as a pikeach, if he doesn't have a private area that is now that he finds before his tchum. Meaning, if there's the only private area that he has that is towards his and there's one private area away from his original tchum, and there's one closer to his tchum, he should go to the area in the direction of his tchum so that he can enter in his tchum a beheter. But if there is a private area that he encounters before he reaches his tchum, he can't go further go into his tchum. There's a dion in the Rishonim and the Paiskim. Do we are dealing here with gedolim or ketanim? Is it perhaps only for gedolim or even ketanim? Mishnah Berurah says a person should be machmir and apply this heter only for gedolim, not ketanim. Amar Papa. So we discussed in the Mishnah about a person going out. He says, what about objects? He said, if parrots were taken out of the tchum, and then they were brought back in, I feel b'mezid, even if it was b'mezid, lo yifsidas mekayimim, they have not lost their original tchum, and then they can be carried through the original tchum, the original area that was permitted, the original tchum. My time, why do we say this is mutter? If a person goes out b'mezid, he can't do that, because we say anusim. These were anusim. The parents themselves were anusim. They didn't go out. So we treat the parents themselves as they were taken out of their tchum against their will. They didn't go out willingly. And therefore we say that in any event, whether it even was b'mezid, they can be carried, they have retained their original tchum. Eser of Yosef Bar Shmuel Rav Papa, I from Nechemia Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Leimim lo elam asurim. The fruit are taken out of the tchum. They're lo elam asurim. They can't be taken out. They can't be moved, and they can't be eaten. They're lo elam asurim ad sheyachzor l'kayim b'shoigim unless they're brought back to the original place b'shoigig. So you see, we do not hold that svar b'shoigig in b'mezid lo. Where it says tanoi, it's a machlokes tanoim, and as we'll see in the next Talmud, what the machlokes tanoim is in this case.